How do Samsung and Sony's latest 10-inch tablets compare to one another? I'm Taylor Martin, this is Pocketnow, and this is the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 versus the Sony Xperia Tablet Z.
Samsung is largely the dominant force in the Android tablet sector. In Q1 this year, it was the only Android tablet manufacturer to hold double-digit worldwide market share, with just under half of Apple's 39.6% share. The rest of the market is divided between smaller Android manufacturers and a handful of OEMs building Windows tablets. Sony, for example, isn't even listed individually on most tablet market share reports, and that might make you think Sony's latest tablet would struggle to keep up with a more widely known tablet brand like the Galaxy Tab 10.1. But this head-to-head battle may surprise you. Aside from the fact that these two tablets are the same general shape, they actually have very little in common. And while both are quite similar to their smaller siblings, the Galaxy Tab 3 being much like the Galaxy S4, and the Xperia Tablet Z being similar to the Xperia Z, this comparison is not quite that simple. You can tell, without ever picking up or touching either of these tablets, that what they have to offer is very different. The Tablet Z from Sony oozes with quality. Its design and build quality are practically identical to the Xperia Z, which we were quite fond of during our short time with the handset, except on a much larger scale. The front is almost entirely composed of a 10.1-inch display, and the edges are coated with a matte finish plastic. The inner portion of the edges is filled with a shiny, metallic plastic, and the expansive, mostly blank backside is also covered with a soft-touch plastic. Ultimately, aside from how minimal the tablet is, what you will first notice about the Xperia Tablet Z is how remarkably thin the tablet is. It's an impressive 6.9mm thick. If you're fond of Samsung's design and use of hyper-light plastics, you will likely have no issues with the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1. At least on the outside, it's unmistakably related to the Galaxy S4. It utilizes the same exact design. A textured hyperglaze finish atop a lightweight polycarbonate body, faux brushed metal trim along the edges, and bold Samsung logos plastered on the front and back. And it uses Samsung's typical custom navigation button layout, with a physical home button centered at the very bottom of the face, flanked by menu and back capacitive buttons to the left and right, respectively. For the record, both tablets feel sturdy. Neither twist or squeak with a firm grip, but the Tablet Z certainly has a major advantage on its size. Not only does it sport a matte soft-touch finish, which makes it easy to grip with one hand and feel much more premium, it ships with IP57 certifications for dustproofing and water resistance. By no means is the Xperia Tablet Z a ruggedized tablet, but that's not the point. If you want to take the tablet to the beach or lake, or if you want to use it in the kitchen, you can without the fear of ruining it. That's certainly more than can be said for the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1. The unfortunate side effect of dustproofing and water resistance rating is that each of the ports on the Tablet Z are covered, but hats off to Sony for squeezing the package down into a surprisingly thin device and doing so in a manner where the ports are still easily accessible without being a huge burden. Apart, you might take the Tab 3 10.1 and Xperia Tablet Z as similarly sized devices. However, there's a rather significant difference in the footprint of these two tablets. At 266mm wide, the Tablet Z is 22.9mm wider than the Tab 3 10.1, but the Tab 3 is 4.1mm taller and 1.1mm thicker. However, both hit the scales at roughly the same mark, 495 grams and 510 grams for the Tablet Z and the Tab 3 10.1 respectively. Specifications are also quite different. The Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 features a 1.6 GHz dual-core Intel Atom chipset, 1GB of RAM, either 16 or 32GB of built-in storage, a microSD card slot, 3.1MP rear camera, 1.3MP front-facing shooter, 6800 mAh battery, and, as the name alleges, a 10.1-inch TFT display which offers a meager resolution of 1280 by 800 pixels. Sony's tablet, at least on paper, is better equipped for a power user. It comes with a 1.5 GHz quad-core Snapdragon S4 Pro chipset, 2GB of RAM, 16 or 32GB of built-in storage with a microSD card slot for expansion, 8.1MP rear-facing camera, 2.2MP front camera, 6000 mAh battery, and a 10.1-inch 1920 by 1200 pixel resolution LCD display with Sony's mobile Bravia Engine 2. While we're on the topic of displays, it goes without saying the Xperia Tablet Z has the superior panel. Yes, the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1's TFT display has an advantage in contrast. Blacks on the Tablet Z appear washed out and gray, but the Tab 3's contrast, unlike other Samsung devices fitted with AMOLED displays, isn't much better. What the Tablet Z lacks in contrast, however, it more than makes up for it in color reproduction, saturation, and clarity. The mobile Bravia Engine 2 gives colors a much needed boost. Seriously, don't turn it off. and the 1920 by 1200 pixel resolution stomps all over the 1280 by 800 pixels on the Tab 3 10.1. It's honestly a shame on Samsung's part, considering the Nexus 10 has one of the highest resolution displays on a tablet ever, 2560 by 1600 pixels. Hands down, the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 is no match for the Xperia Tablet Z in hardware, which includes specifications, design, form, build quality, and display. If we switch to the software side of things, it's a much more evenly matched fight. Don't get us wrong though, Samsung dropped the ball once again. If you power on the two tablets at the same time, you might initially find yourself gravitating towards the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1. It runs Touchwiz like any other Galaxy tablet, and is equipped with the latest version of Android, version 4.2.2. The interface on the Xperia Tablet Z, however, might leave you scratching your head. Initially, it looks like it's running Ice Cream Sandwich. It features the leftward navigation buttons and the notification panel in the lower right corner. Swiping down from the top of the display does, well, nothing. But tapping on the top right corner will open the app drawer. Navigate to the About page in the settings, however, and you might feel a little more confused. That's right, it's running Android 4.1.2, not Ice Cream Sandwich. And honestly, we couldn't be more happy about this strange fusion of Ice Cream Sandwich tablet interface atop Jelly Bean. It puts the controls within reach of your thumbs when you're holding the tablet two-handed. And it just makes more sense than implementing a phone UI on a 10-inch tablet. And that brings us back to Touchwiz on the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1. Basically, it's a gutted version of Touchwiz, which overrides some of the Android 4.2.2 features, and it's missing the most important and useful features of Touchwiz, like multi-window. Features that would be perfectly useful on a tablet such as pop-up browser are nowhere to be found. Only the Touchwiz features we don't really care about, Smart Stay and Smart Rotation, are available. It's almost as if Samsung dug up this Touchwiz UI from a few years ago and slapped it on slightly newer hardware with an Intel chip. The notification shade, for example, resembles applications that are not yet optimized for tablet use. It's full screen, and it utilizes the 10-inch screen rather poorly. It's just rough around the edges. For instance, within the notification shade is a button in the top right corner, which is supposed to reveal a page of settings toggles. However, there are no additional toggles, only the ones that appear above the notifications in the standard configuration. Pressing the button only makes the brightness slider and notifications disappear. That said, Sony's software isn't perfect. It's heavily laden, which is to blame for some stuttering throughout use. More on that in a bit. The interesting bit is that the Galaxy Tab 3 software, unlike most other Galaxy devices, does not offer oodles of software features. In this case, the Xperia Tablet Z takes the cake. Where the Galaxy Tab 3 is missing the multi-window feature, the Tablet Z offers what Sony calls small apps, which are free-floating applications accessible by a button in the action bar. Almost every part of the software experience on the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 feels haphazard. Naturally, the Tablet Z pulls even further ahead. As if you hadn't already guessed, this theme continues into performance. To be fair, neither tablet performs flawlessly, both tend to stutter and lag from time to time. On both accounts, we can blame that on heavily customized interfaces. But the Xperia Tablet Z has double the memory, meaning it can jump between applications markedly better than the Tab 3 10.1 without having to completely reload each application. Synthetic benchmarks also put these two on a level playing field in terms of performance. The sound coming from the speakers on either one of these tablets is plenty loud for multimedia consumption, unless you're in a noisy area. In that case, you'd probably be better off with headphones anyway. The Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 speakers, however, are fairly easy to completely cover with the palms of your hands. The Xperia Tablet Z speakers are also quite easy to cover, but not entirely, since there is one speaker on the bottom of each the left and right edges and two on the bottom edge. On paper, the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 has a larger battery, but only by 800 mAh. In day-to-day usage, the two tablets appear to drain at approximately the same pace. Both also have software features that attempt to prolong battery life. But what it boils down to is, if you use either tablet heavily, you'll have to charge it every day. If, instead, you use them more sparingly, they will likely last several days on a single charge. Just remember to switch off Wi-Fi when you're not using it to keep them going longer. The camera performance on these two tablets is night and day, though neither are particularly awesome. It's a case of mediocre camera and purely terrible. The 8.1 megapixel camera on the Tablet Z is no stunner, but it's fairly comparable with the smartphone flagship from the last 2 years. Pictures lack detail and proper contrast, but its camera gets the job done and the software has ample features. The Galaxy Tab 3 10.1's 3.1 megapixel camera is just there. It takes pictures which lack necessary detail, they're noisy, fuzzy, and often out of focus. You would think a tablet, 3rd generation no less, coming from the market leader in Android tablets, the creator of a tablet as fantastic as the Nexus 10, would be capable of completely burying the competition. But in just a few months' time, it seems as if Samsung forgot how awesome the Nexus 10 is and instead went back to its old ways. Sony, the unlikely winner, takes this battle in a decisive manner. Its Xperia Tablet Z is a tablet you won't be afraid to take around water or dirt, which offers a decent camera, useful software, a high-resolution display, crammed into a svelte, high-quality casing. The Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 has none of that. There's just not much else to say. The Xperia Tablet Z is the definite, undisputed winner. And the Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 is a 2011-esque mid-range tablet, and the Intel Atom chipset simply isn't enough to save face.
That's going to do it for this video. If you enjoyed it, be sure to click the thumbs up button below and subscribe to see more videos like this one in the future. Stay tuned for more Galaxy Tab 3 10.1 coverage over the next few days, and be sure to follow us in the usual places, Twitter, Google+, and Facebook at Pocketnow. I'm Taylor Martin. You can find me on Twitter at CasperTech, and I'll see you soon.